Welcome to The Explainer. Listen, I am absolutely thrilled you're here today because we're putting on our sports journalist hats and diving straight into the mechanics of the biggest sporting event on the entire planet. We're going to break down the brutal, totally unforgiving mathematics of the upcoming FIFA World Cup draw. Now, I know you might think it's just, picking some random names out of a fancy glass bowl, but actually, there's this massive, highly strategic puzzle happening behind the scenes. And that puzzle literally dictates who gets a straight path to glory and who goes home early.
Okay, let's just dive right into this with the single most important number on the board today, 48. We're looking at a completely unprecedented scale for this tournament, 48 different countries. That is a massive, massive expansion, bringing in more global talent than we've ever seen. But think about it from a logistical standpoint for a second. It introduces a level of absolute chaos that the organizers have to somehow tame before a single ball is even kicked.
So, here's our game plan for today's explainer. First, we'll look at the 48-team expansion. Then, we'll unpack the infamous pot system. Third, we'll go step by step into how the 12 groups are actually filled. Fourth, we'll see how this math protects the heavyweights. And finally, we're going to step right inside this year's terrifying group of death.
All right, Section 1, the 48-team World Cup, expanding the global stage. To actually handle those 48 countries, tournament officials have to meticulously divide them up into exactly 12 distinct battlegrounds. It's almost like a giant puzzle. These groups are organized alphabetically, so they run all the way from Group A straight through to Group L. Which brings us to the central question of our whole explainer today. 48 countries, 12 groups, one lucky draw. How on earth do you organize this massive puzzle fairly? I mean, if you just threw 48 names into a hat and pulled them out at random, you'd have absolute chaos on your hands. You could literally end up with the 4 best teams in the world eliminating each other in week 1. So to prevent that absolute nightmare, they use a very specific mathematical framework.
Moving on to Section 2, unpacking the pot system, the hierarchy of power.
Okay, so before the draw even begins, the power dynamics of global football are separated into 4 tiers, or pots. Think of Pot 1 as the ultimate VIP section. It holds the absolute strongest teams in the world, plus your host countries. Pot 2, that contains the highly competitive teams. They're super dangerous, but just sitting outside that top tier. Pot 3 holds your decent, middle-of-the-pack squads. And finally, Pot 4 consists of the lowest-ranked teams that manage to qualify. You can instantly see how this hierarchy kind of acts like a shield, right? It protects the top dogs while setting the underdogs up for a massive uphill battle.
All right, Section 3, step by step, filling the 12 groups, the architecture of the draw.
The very first rule of this draw actually happens before anyone even touches a lottery ball. The host nations get their group assignments locked in automatically, so Mexico is instantly slotted into Group A. Canada is handed Group B. And the USA takes Group D. They're basically guaranteed these spots as the hosts, anchoring the entire tournament bracket right from the very start.
From there, the official lucky draw kicks into high gear with a very clean, sequential protocol. Step 1, they pull names one by one from Pot 1, dropping one top-tier giant into each of the remaining groups from A to L. Once every single group has a Pot 1 heavyweight, they move to Step 2. They pull from Pot 2 and sequentially drop those teams into groups A through L. First name to Group A, second to Group B, third to Group C, you get the idea. Then they just repeat this exact same process for Pods 3 and 4 until every single group has exactly 4 teams.
Let's look at Section 4, protecting the heavyweights, engineered for blockbusters.
See, this draw isn't just about getting organized. It's practically engineered for blockbusters. The crucial thing to ask here is who actually benefits from the setup? Well, consider absolute powerhouse teams like Spain, Argentina, France, and England. Because they're seated right at the very top of the system in Pot 1, the math acts as a literal shield for them. They are deliberately spread out across all 12 groups.
By isolating these Pot 1 teams into separate groups, the whole design basically ensures that favorites like Argentina, France, England, and Spain completely avoid facing each other early on. The system is explicitly built to guarantee that these massive, dramatic, high-stakes matchups are saved for deep into the knockout rounds right before the final. It absolutely protects the Giants from an embarrassing early elimination.
Finally, Section 5, inside the group of death, where giants stumble.
But what happens when the math goes horribly wrong and creates a terrifying anomaly? We all know the sheer dread of the group of death. For anyone new,
It's that absolute nightmare scenario where a single group accidentally absorbs more than two truly elite, extremely dangerous teams. And since advancement out of the group stages is capped, this lethal combination literally guarantees, that a genuine contender is going to be sent packing immediately.
Historically, in older World Cups, getting a group of death was pretty common. Now, having 48 teams spread across 12 groups actually dilutes that risk quite a bit. It spreads the top-tier talent out a bit more thinly. But hey, make no mistake, even with this expanded format, the threat still manages to slip through the cracks, and incredibly dangerous clusters absolutely still form.
Which brings us right to the absolute tactical nightmare of this particular tournament, Group L. On one side, you've got your elite European giants, Croatia and England. Both have massive expectations, tons of pressure, and deep tournament experience. But sharing the exact same group are the highly aggressive disruptors, Ghana and Panama. These are physically demanding, incredibly relentless teams that will absolutely punish you if you overlook them even for a second.
The tactical implication here is just brutal. For teams facing aggressive opponents like Ghana or Panama, there is zero room to relax for a full 90 minutes. An elite team like England or Croatia, they cannot afford to play a rotated squad or take a breather. A single tactical mistake, just one tiny moment of fatigue against these aggressive sides, and a tournament favorite will be booking a very early flight home. The pressure is just relentless.
And honestly, this is exactly why coaches start sweating the exact second the World Cup draw drops. Their entire tactical roadmap, their job security, and their entire nation's hopes are completely dictated by the alphabet soup of this draw. I mean, Group L is exactly the kind of scenario that keeps these managers wide awake at night.
The tension is so palpable right now, and the wait is almost over. Guys, the World Cup starts in just 6 days. If you want to learn everything about football and get more of these deep dive tactical breakdowns, make sure you join us. We're building the biggest, fastest growing football community right here in India, and you definitely want to be a part of it as this tournament kicks off.
So, I'll leave you with this final thought as we look ahead to the games. Given the brutal math, the totally unforgiving pressure, and the highly aggressive tactics we've just unpacked today, who do you think is actually going to survive the absolute chaos of Group L? Think about it